And welcome everybody to this week's episode of True Bayou Sports Media Primetime. Certainly we hope you and your family is doing well after the events that went on here in the Bayou region with Hurricane Francine. We certainly hope all of you are doing well, safe, and on the road to any recovery that may be necessary. This weekend in sports is going to be quite a big one for the lifting of the spirits of the region, particularly with all the action we have going on. We're going to give you the best breakdown we can, get you ready for what's coming as we've got a loaded slate in both college and NFL. Football's going to be fun this week. Let's hear that intro. It is prime time on the True Bayou Sports Media Network. My name is Donald. I'm your host this and every week as we get you ready for another week of coverage of Bayou region sports. If it's the New Orleans Saints, the LSU Tigers, New Orleans Pelicans, or your favorite team from across the region from the Bayou City to the whole boot and through the Mississippi Sound, we get you ready for what's going down on the True Bayou Sports Media Network. All right, let's go ahead and see what is going on this week. We're going to start, of course, with some of the major stories, just to give a brief recap with no episode of Keeping It True Bayou in Louisiana this week. We take a look at some of the things going around the state real quick to give you a little bit of a recap. Unfortunately, Northwestern State, my goodness. An effort was made in Mobile, but it was an effort that was not the strongest for your Demons. Wow, what a thrashing. It's right there in the top of the notable results. First game of the week for the state of Louisiana for the Bayou region, and you hope to see Northwestern recover from that. That was unexpected. Of course, LSU will face the University of South Alabama, USA, in approximately 2 weeks, so that'll be something to watch out for. You know, the Jags, they were not doing great this year, 0-2, but they weren't doing bad, and they certainly got a nice rebound game against Northwestern State, handling them thoroughly and handling them completely. We'll have to see what happens. That was, just really rough to watch, particularly towards the end, but you gotta hope the best for the Demons going forward. Now, what else is going to come up here forward is we have a couple major events. We have Saints Cowboys. That's going to be a Sunday game. We have the main Fox broadcast crew, so that's going to be going nationwide. That'll be fun to watch. First time seeing Tom Brady commentate on the New Orleans Saints. You also have LSU facing South Carolina on Saturday. College game day, going to be in town. So a lot of fun things going on in Columbia. If you're making the trip, we certainly are excited to hear about that for you and see what you get to see once you get over there. A lot of question marks, though, and we'll talk a little bit about that later in this episode. Tulane is facing Oklahoma at Oklahoma, so back-to-back ranked opponents, back-to-back national television audiences. Tulane and Oklahoma get the 2:30 ESPN slot, so that'll be a fun one to tune over to after the LSU game if you want to keep your SEC football for the day going. Then you have what was going to be a pretty big game, but it's sort of turned into a sleeper. We'll talk about it a little bit here, and that is Louisiana Tech and North Carolina State, the Wolfpack, Tuffy, and the gang up there in Raleigh over at Carter Finley Stadium. We'll talk a little bit about what the Bulldogs might be looking at as they go into game number 2 after getting the week off last week. And finally, we'll end it with a great rivalry game. You got to love it. It's going to be Southern Jackson State over from Jackson. We'll talk about that to end out the episode. But let's go ahead and work backwards. Let's start with the Saints. Let's start with your New Orleans Saints. We talked about them a little bit this week on Keeping It True Bayou Saints. We talked a little bit about what we thought went on last week in week 1. Was it a fluke? Was it real? A lot of that discussion has been had. Now we have to turn forward to the real things that are going to be mattering, and that's going to be what happens in week 2 whenever you have a chance to confirm your quality, to confirm who you are as a team. Some of the things you may want to be looking at here, we look at the injury report. You see a lot of big names on here: Tyrann Mathieu, Foster Moreau, Marshawn Lattimore, Talise Fuaga, and Kalen Saunders. That's all some pretty strong names. But honestly, I think when you look at that, you have to understand a lot of this is did not practices. These are some tweak injuries. I don't really see the Saints having to worry too much about injuries, but it will be important that they manage the team well. You can't necessarily just let those things go, but understand if you have guys who are willing to get on the field and give you their best, you got to take it, particularly against a NFC rival in a game that will not play major implications on anything, but for what it's worth, the Saints are technically, if we stop the count right now, the 1 seed in the NFC and have secured a first-round bye. Just joking. It's a little bit too early to talk about that, obviously. But a game where it's going to be very competitive, a game where you're going to have to look into a lot of different strategies to make sure you're being on top of your game. Dennis Allen will have to formulate some strong efforts to stop a CeeDee Lamb who had a not amazing week one. You have Dak Prescott who's looking to rebound after some less than all-star numbers. I think this team in Dallas is motivated. Of course, they're coming off a win as well. Nobody wants to get the first L of the year. Right now, Saints being a 6-point dog, which, if you adjust that out, for those of you who may not be familiar with how line setting works, some things like that, you're giving Dallas 3 points for being at home, plus or minus generally. So that brings you up to a -3. So it's really saying the Saints are about 3-point dog on a neutral site. And being within, 4 points, that means that you're getting a really competitive game, theoretically on paper. Also, the over-under for this one is a little low, in my opinion, at 46.5. That would be something that definitely, if you're looking to take a stab at that action, that would be a nice little one if you want to maybe buy a couple points on each direction. You'd be pretty safe, in my opinion. But, and again, just my opinion, just for entertainment purposes only. You'll hear it at the end of the episode. But nevertheless, you take a look at Saints-Cowboys. This is one where, as much as the Saints feel like they need to get a good start, I feel like Dallas, now seeing what they have in the NFC East, has to feel as though they can't really slack. Jaden Daniels had a nice performance for Washington in week one. They did not secure the victory, obviously, but he was able to show that he has talent and he can translate his talent to the NFL. Hopefully his helmet will translate and they will get that nice and secured for him after 2 helmet times the helmet was knocked off last week. Never a good look for a starting quarterback, much less one that's putting his head down and running. Of course, with everything we saw on Thursday night, get the helmet secured, please and thank you. But Dallas, beyond that, Philadelphia still seems to be the strongest player in the division. And I don't think that's changed yet. I think Dallas is certainly a team that is going to be right there at the playoffs when it comes to January. But will they be there at a 7 seed or will they sneak into a 2 or a 3? Right now, I can't tell you, but I feel as though it's on the lesser end of that spectrum. And look, honestly, if I'm being honest, if the Saints take this win, it's going to change the discussion. It's going to change the discussion in a lot of ways. I don't think it's a point to where you're ready to start, giving a free pass to Derek Carr, giving a free pass to any of the things that we need to see fixed on the defense and offensive side of the ball, particularly the offensive side of the ball. Defense had a great game last game. But, you have to assume that the Saints start 2-0. You're going to go hit that buzzsaw with the Eagles. Again, a Sunday noon game in Philly. So you're getting them in warm weather. You're not going to have to worry about any of the winter weather conditions that sometimes Philly brings the Saints. We saw that certainly in that wild card game a few years ago. Now more than a few years ago, but yeah. And then you go on the road back to back. I'm sorry, I said that wrong. Saints are coming to the Dome. Eagles are coming to the Dome. So that's even better. That's a way where you can maybe sneak one out at home. And if you start 3-0, let me tell you, everyone's going to have to raise an eyebrow, particularly with that. Then you get the Falcons on the road, which the Falcons did not look like world beaters by any means, but they were certainly competitive with Pittsburgh. But Mike Tomlin always finds a way. I mean, it gets a little humorous at that point. It really does, because you don't want to read too far into things, and that's not what we're doing here at this channel. But, just for a little bit of home cooking, let's assume you get, like I say, the win against Dallas on the road. That would be a big one. You somehow find a way to take advantage of the Eagles, although I don't think that's realistically what's going to happen. But we'll say that it's, possible. And then Falcons on the road, you steal one in Atlanta, and you're in a driver's seat position in the whole entire conference, much less the NFC South. But we're not going to get too far ahead of ourselves. Main matchup I'm looking at in this game, I want to see, can the Saints continue to shut down the Dallas rushing effort? I did not see great things from Dallas last game that made me say, okay, this team is going to be a challenge when it comes to what they're able to do on the running side of the ball. I think passing-wise, you're going to have Dak give you, like I say, that pretty average performance. That's kind of who he is as a quarterback. You're going to get 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, something along that lines, plus or minus 250 yards on either side of that by about 25. But overall, Dallas only rushed for 102 yards last week, under 300 total yards of offense. If the Saints can show that they're even competitive in the way that you had the Browns, which really was not the best defensive performance, if they're able to just surpass that a little bit, I don't see why you can't have Clint Kubiak go and put another 28 out there. I don't think 4 touchdowns or the combination of that, and Blake Grupe, who has a very strong performance in week 1, who shows that he is the kicker for a reason. You put those assets together, I don't think 28 points will be a struggle to get you to win this game. The question is, can we see the offense perform in back-to-back weeks in a way that is not maybe perfect, but is at least highly excelling and gets them where they want to go? But that is my take on the Saints and Cowboys. Let me know what you think down in those comments. Tell me what you think the game's going to end in. I think it's going to be a pretty fun one, and you're looking at somewhere in that 30-point range will probably take care of the victory. A team that will most likely need to also put about 30 points up to secure a victory will be your LSU Tigers. Now, this one, you're going on the road, first true road game of the year for the Tigers. You're going into hostile territory, South Carolina. While they have not had the best performances, the fan base is still very excited for this game. They'll be out there. It's always nice to get game day on your campus, so I think they're looking forward to their opportunity, and I think they know what they have. They know what a victory could mean to get South Carolina back on track. But at the end of the day, there's a lot of questions with South Carolina. Let's first and foremost talk about their quarterback. LaNorris Sellers, he is a fun guy to watch. You're going to enjoy watching LaNorris out there. He, of course, has had a interesting career so far, but I think that he's starting to win a lot of the maybe hearts and minds of people now that he's in here year 2 at South Carolina. Look, he's not the strongest passing quarterback. He has a QBR that is 112th in FBS football. Do not assume that this man is going to light it up in the secondary, throwing deep balls, so forth and so on. The question is, can LSU secure its secondary at all? This will be up to Ashton Stamps, Xavier, missing it right there, and Woodland, of course, all those guys back there in the backfield. Sage Ryan in whatever hybrid role he's playing currently. The man has been all over the field, and everyone's favorite Major Burns. All of those guys will have to step up as we look forward to what can be done in the LSU defense to honestly take a moment and say, wait a minute, we held a Lincoln Riley team to 27, which everybody applauded us for, but somehow we followed that performance up with letting Nichols almost run away with the game at certain points. That was not acceptable, and it is a clear sign that there was something that was not clicking on that Nichols game. Obviously, you don't show your whole playbook. Obviously, you don't try and, give away the best of your best. But at the same time, when it's 23-21 and the only thing that's protecting you is a safety, that's not a good feeling. And it wasn't a good feeling in Tiger Stadium. A lot of people kind of metaphorically and literally sitting on the hands, kind of doing that little bit of a rock back and forth, like, that's not what I thought was going to happen tonight. But hey, the victory was secured nevertheless. Tigers are 1-1. Gamecocks are 2-0. They got a very good win over Kentucky, something that kind of puts a bit of a maybe an eyebrow raised in the air and say, okay, is South Carolina good? Now, to be honest with you, the bet makers didn't feel that way. They opened up LSU with an 8.5 point favorite, and now it's gone down to 6.5. But one thing that's kind of interesting, we talk about sometimes the computer. What do they think? How does they sort of see these games? Obviously the computer analysis can vary, but generally it knows a little bit about something, and that has LSU as a 50.6. That's right, 50.6% chance to win this game. Now, that is interesting because you wouldn't expect that from a team that is almost a road favorite by almost a touchdown. So you take away South Carolina's 3 points, as we talked about earlier. You're talking about a 10-point favorite. You're talking about someone who is expected to win this handily. Money line is sitting at 250. I don't think that this is a game where it should be that close. Honestly, if Garrett Nussmeier plays the way how we know he's capable of, the man has 610 yards, 8 touchdowns, 1 interception, which was in garbage time, so go ahead and get rid of that for me. And I'm looking at somebody who is putting out outstanding numbers, who's putting out numbers that will rival and will be right there with some of his predecessors who have put together excellent seasons. You're talking about someone who is theoretically pacing to be in the range of 4,000 yards, 35 touchdowns. And that's a very healthy season for any quarterback. Right now, just to give you all a little bit of context, he has the 10th best QBR in the nation. 10th. Lenore Sellers, 112th. There's a bit of a gap there. You have to take advantage of that gap. You have to show why you are the premier program, why South Carolina does not normally have great success with LSU. This is LSU's 8th time going to Columbia since they came into the league. Thank you, SEC scheduling. So balanced. But nevertheless, obviously you did have the one flood game, which brought South Carolina to LSU that one year. But nevertheless, really it's good to just be at South Carolina, get to finally play them over in their place. But beyond that, I see this one maybe not being as close as they're predicting. I think LSU will probably pull away late in this one, hopefully in a little bit more competitive way than what they did against Missouri last year, and you're maybe looking at somewhere in the range of a 10 to 14-point victory. That's around where I have it for this team. I think they'll handle business. Not as worried as some others. A team that we do have to keep an eye on for double reasons. One, Tulane in our region. We keep a great eye on them and what they're doing so far, but also Oklahoma. Oklahoma has been taking care of their business pretty strongly with game one against Temple, a fellow American side, but American Conference side. But then Houston, the Big 12 came back punching last week. Willie Fritz, of course, the former Tulane coach, did not, really hold back against Oklahoma. It gave maybe Oklahoma a bit of a taste of what some of the player personnel that a Willie Fritz team will look like, seeing this Tulane side now. But, Houston kept it to a 4-point game, something that was very unexpected. And nevertheless, with Tulane playing competitive ball, kept Kansas State within a touchdown, really could have won it if they had a couple things go their way. I think that they are a very competitive team right now, sitting at a 13-point dog on the road. I think that that is probably a realistic number, though. As much as I would love to see Tulane take care of this one, Oklahoma showed that they can do some things against the lower G5 schools. I don't know if it'll be 51-3, but I'm expecting at least a 2-touchdown victory for the Sooners here. If Tulane is able to keep it close in the fourth, I would turn that game on immediately, because they could definitely be a type of team that upsets somebody with the way how you have players like just Darian Mensah, who has stepped into this quarterback role and really ran with it. 22nd best QBR in the nation, showing some good results week in, week out. And of course, it's not like he doesn't have good backups behind him. He still has Kai Horton, still has Ty Thompson back there. If anything wants to, make a change, see a little bit of difference here or there. I'm excited for this Tulane team to get a chance to go up in Oklahoma, be on national TV for a second week in a row. They're going to be on national TV as well next week whenever they face the Cajuns. Something to look out for there. But, I'm expecting good things from Tulane, but they will not most likely prevail in victory. Another team that I'm not really expecting to prevail in victory, but I do think that they have a chance to show their talents, and they have a chance to show really for their coach, a reason why he should be kept around. It's Louisiana Tech, Sonny Cumbie, and the Bulldogs are going to be on the ACC network facing off against NC State. That is an 11 a.m. kick. I know we kind of went backwards with the time there, but just to give you a little bit of an idea, you have Blake Baker. That's right, not LSU's defensive coordinator, but Blake Baker, the Louisiana Tech freshman quarterback. He currently had a pretty not amazing game against Nichols, but he was able to secure a victory, so we can't necessarily be upset with that. You still have some other players like Jack Turner, who got a little bit of playing time there against Nichols. So I don't know who is really going to be the primary quarterback. I haven't quite seen the notes that I maybe need to know who that is, and that's on me. I should probably be a little bit more keen on that. But honestly, this Bulldogs team, very much in development, still trying to get some traction, trying to get back to bowl eligibility. They follow this game up against NC State in Raleigh with Tulsa, who let Northwestern State score 28 on them. So there's something to say there. And then FIU at Pitbull Stadium, Dale, followed by Middle Tennessee State. You got to get a victory at some point. I don't think it's going to come against the Wolfpack, but nevertheless, you have to hope that maybe there's something that can be done there. If they keep it competitive, that would be a big sign for what Sonny Cumbie's building, and that his system is maybe getting a little bit closer to being where it needs to be. The line did move since open. Dogs are a little bit better positioned now at 21.5. We'll see. Plus 1,000 money line. If you want to throw out a miracle, hey, that's maybe your place to put it. And last but not least, this week here on this episode of True Bayou Sports Media Primetime, it's going to be Southern Jackson State. Wow, gotta love a good rivalry game. We got some SWAC action. Last game with both of these sides taking on their Division II opponent. SWAC schools will normally schedule a Division II for one of their early season games. If you're unfamiliar, Jags handled Savannah State 42-10. We certainly are friends in the Bayou region with Jackson, but we're certainly in this case not going to be rooting for them. That's just me personally. Sound off in the comments if you're overlapping there between the Jackson State Tigers and the Bayou region teams. But nevertheless, I take a look at what Southern has. This game's also going to be on ESPN Plus, by the way, if you need to throw something on your fourth monitor this Saturday, because we all know that you're really about college football like that. And it's going to be back-to-back for Southern here. It's back-to-back. It's Jackson State followed by Prairie View. Then they get Nichols, again, a FCS playoff team, still ranked following their performance against LSU. Right now, it would be wise for Southern to take at least one of three there. They did get their first win under their new head coach, but at the end of the day, the SWAC schedule is not very nice to Southern, the way how it's kind of put together. They do end with home games at the end of the year, and they, of course, end in the Bayou Classic and the Superdome. So, but these away games, away, 2 home games sandwiched in between, and then 3 away matchups. That's where their schedule sits, and if you're the Jags, if you want to have a chance to run for a SWAC title, you got to show up against some big names. Not in your division is Jackson State, by the way, but hey, that's a name that you got to take care of. I think that it would show pretty wisely for them to go ahead and put that together. But that's really what we have this week on True Bayou Sports Media Primetime. We again have thanked you for watching. Certainly we're excited to watch a college football slate this weekend. This will be the only episode going into the weekend is this one. So this is your full football fix. That's why we went over 5 teams. We wanted to give you some good coverage, get you ready for football. But we'll be back next week to recap, followed up with our previews, and who knows, maybe a little something new. This is, of course, Donald, your host for this and every episode here on True Bayou Sports Media. We thank you for watching, and we certainly wish you a great college football weekend. Everybody have a good one. This has been a True Bayou Media production. This show is for entertainment purposes only and does not render legal or financial advice. Remember to bet responsibly. Distribution of this podcast is prohibited without the express written consent of True Bayou Media or its subsidiaries. Thanks for being true by us. We can't wait until next time we keep it true by you.